Welcome to Queer Next, the podcast that puts the yeehaw in y'all means all. I'm your host, Beck.
And I am your host, Dash. Welcome to today's episode. I kind of forgot that's what we were here to do. It was just talking away. Oh, and now Ziggy's going to be talking to us. That's fine.
We found out yesterday that Rue has asthma.
Poor baby. Do you have to do that thing where you put her in a box with a nebulizer?
Well, she has an appointment at the vet on Monday. We were driving through Toledo down 75, and she starts making this noise from the back seat, and we're like, what the hell? And we pulled over in a really sketchy neighborhood. It was scary. Like, everything was boarded up, and like, it was just not fun. And we stopped at this little gas station, and Shannon did a finger sweep of her throat because it sounded like it was like clicking, like there was something stuck in there. And she was just having an asthma attack, and it went on for about 10 minutes. Finally calmed her down, and she quit. And that was pretty much all that happened. But like, I was ready to take her to the animal ER. Like, I didn't know what was happening. But we called, and they said that she'd probably be okay if she had another episode, or her lips started, or her tongue or her gums started turning blue, bring her in. So we kept a good eye on her. And she seems to be okay. But that was very scary. I've never had a dog do that to me before.
Yeah, maybe she was anxious being in the car, or I don't know what causes asthma in other animals, but sometimes for me, mine, I don't have much trouble with it at all anymore now that I'm older. But if I get into a certain environmental allergen, then it'll really flare up. And it's more than, I think, if somebody doesn't have asthma, it's hard to imagine what it feels like. Because it's like, yeah, you get the tightness and wheezing in your chest, but it happens to your whole body too. You get this like fatigue. It feels like a hangover almost. It's like borderline anaphylaxis. You get feverish and stuff. I still get exercise-induced asthma occasionally and environmental allergen-induced things. Like, I keep an inhaler, but I mostly only need it when I'm sick.
I also keep an inhaler because I have issues sometimes with, they've said I have asthma, but I've never had a real asthma attack. I've had the tightness and I can't breathe very well, that kind of thing. Usually I'll get to coughing and can't quit and struggle for breath when that happens. So that's when I use mine. But I've never seen anything like what happened with Rue last night. It was scary. Yeah. And her nickname seems to be becoming Monkey Butt because that's what she is. So it's Rue, but she's a little monkey butt.
Call her Rudy.
Yeah, Rudy Toot Tootin'. Rudy Roo.
Did you watch the roast of Kevin Hart?
I did not.
I mean, I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
But I saw clips, which that's how I engage with a lot of media that I don't really feel like actually watching, but like I'm interested in being abreast of it, and I think maybe that's just normal for everyone, but I saw a lot of people talking about it. The one thing that was really, people have said a lot about is Chelsea Handler's joke about, I don't even know how to Google this. I'm trying to, the person she was making fun of, who was Chelsea Handler making, yeah. Who the fuck was this guy? Something, Tony Hinchcliffe, some MAGA comedian, which that in itself is, conservatives do not have comedy,
Right.
And many a person more educated in comedy has done a think piece on that. One of my favorite deep dives on it was from a YouTuber named Big Joel, and he has this like hours long analysis of conservative comedy, historical analysis going back to like the what you would call like the inception of the modern stand-up comic, in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s to present day. I think that it's called Conservative Comedy Broke My Brain or something like that. So they're just not funny. But first of all, roasts have become something, I think a lot of people don't know that roast has a definition. And they used to be private among a group of people that share a discourse. They share a community, like the Friars Club roasts. That's the format that has become popular. And they started televising those. And then that brought people who don't know anything about comedy into the equation, and it brought ratings into the equation. And so roasts changed significantly to just catfighting. There's a lot of catfighting at roasts and just being like cruel and weird and disgusting and personal. I still think you could say that what she did was not in the spirit of roast. It did make me laugh, though, because it was a woman calling a specific thing out. This guy, all of the MAGA comedians, she said something like, your favorite pedophile president is reinstating the draft. You must be excited that you can put your money where your mouth is and go fight in the war or whatever. And she said, or do you pussies only go to the Middle East for comedy festivals? Talking about the Riyadh Festival.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, tell them. But apparently that was par for the course. That kind of thing, or worse, more personal, was the majority of this whole event. And the thing that most people are talking about, specifically like the black folks that I follow, are talking about Cat Williams' set on Kevin Hart. Do you know about their beef? Cat Williams and Kevin Hart? It's personal, it's legendary, and it's old. It goes way back. And he didn't even try to bring the others into the room. He was just up there speaking practically to Kevin Hart and just saying the meanest shit he could come up with. And when he got up there, he goes like, I can't believe they invited me to this. Like, y'all know I hate this guy, right? And we're like, okay, sure, that can work. For instance, it worked in the roast of William Shatner. A few of his Star Trek co-stars didn't like him much. And a specific example is George Takei. They didn't get along. Shatner's apparently a legendary asshole. And so George Takei attended the roast, but he still made jokes, the kind of jokes at Shatner's expense that were professional, right? About how his weird acting style or something. This was just like apparently beyond the pale. He was making jokes about him being at Diddy's parties.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The only thing I have really seen about it is black people talking about how they would not allow that shit from white people. And I didn't watch it, so I don't know the context for that. But apparently there was some racist shit going on.
Oh, I think it was this fucking Tony Hinchcliffe guy made a joke about George Floyd.
Oh.
Why would you do that? I mean, I guess that's maybe just sums up what I was talking about. Like, roasts aren't roasts anymore. This is something that I was talking about this with Claire, which has got me thinking about. Do you ever watch Penn and Teller's bullshit show?
No.
Check it out. I don't know what it's on, but it's the only one of its kind. And it was just the two of them would delve into various topics and decide if they were real or bullshit. Surprising things. Like, I learned a lot about the cult of Alcoholics Anonymous from their episode on AA. But they also made a documentary on the Aristocrats, which is a famous... This joke really separates the comedians from the rest of us, right? Like, this is a comedian's joke because the punchline is stupid. It's about the performance and how you tell it. And it's kind of a joke of like a family's trying out for a circus act, and it starts off kind of normal or whatever, and they keep getting into more and more grotesque things, like really taboo things. This family is doing like scat, incest, and horrible things to try out for this circus. And then at the end of their act, the promoter says, wow, okay, so what do you call that? And they said, the Aristocrats. And so it's a dumb, like, haha, it was all low class humor, but they're named the Aristocrats. The dumbest punchline. But for comedians, it's how much can you embellish the acts that this family is doing, and how can you make a new ridiculous thing, and how can you pair that with the context of a circus, whatever you want to do. So they produced a documentary called The Aristocrats about this joke, which I also recommend. Really, really fun documentary. Has a lot of heavy hitters in it, and it's actually a really good insight into the culture of comedians, of stand-up, if you're interested in that kind of thing. But there's a story in there. Penn Jillette tells a story of a roast. It was a Friars Club roast. Shortly after 9/11, Gilbert Gottfried was up, and he decided to do a set on the attacks. He was talking about doing bits on flying, doing bits on hijacking, what have you. And the audience, they weren't having it. They sort of erupted in boos, and they were saying too soon. And so he pivots on the spot into doing what a lot of people will pinpoint as the first documented public performance of the Aristocrats. And he starts telling his version of this joke. And the way a lot of people talk about that event is that it was really important. It was a watershed moment, a paradigm shift in comedy and roasting. But to me also, like, it's significant that there became something like that even comedians wouldn't joke about. How, I don't know. We still don't joke about 9/11. Well, people do, but like, it's still pretty rare. A lot of people will say like, oh, that's too far.
Yeah. Well, I mean, true comedy, there's room for jokes about everything,
Sure.
right? There's a way to make a joke about literally anything. It's in the approach that you take to it. There's something funny in every situation, I mean, I don't know about George Floyd. That just seems too far. There are some things but then again, 9/11, 4,000, 5,000 people died in that, and I don't know. What are we allowed to make fun of? Once we start saying we can't make fun of that, is that censorship? Is that thought police?
Well, and I thought about this when Seinfeld kind of decided to tank his career. It was at least 10 years ago now, I think, where he said, you can't do comedy anymore, yada, yada. The same, you have to be so politically correct these days. That's a stupid take because
right.
No one's asking you to be politically correct. They're asking you to improve your craft with the times, right? Like, you want to be let off the hook for not getting any better at comedy. All of the jokes, like the ones you think we should be making, have been made already. Every way that there is to mock a trans person or a disabled person or a person of color has been done. So when somebody says like, okay, great, yeah, another racist joke, you just can't handle my edgy comedy.
Right.
But what's being said is, like, you can joke about race. Plenty of people still do. But I need you to be good at it. I need it to be worth my time.
Yeah.
Just like if I'm going to eat a cake, if it's not any good, I'm going to throw it away and get another thing to eat that I do enjoy, because it's got to be worth the calories.
But on the other hand, there are situations that no matter how bad the cake is, you would eat it, like in prison. So maybe there are situations where no matter how bad the comedy...
That's gallows humor, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's true. Context, situation, all of that is very relevant in comedy. Yeah. And like you were saying that folks were pointing out, like, a white person couldn't talk to Kevin Hart the way Cat Williams did.
Right.
Maybe even more than that, right? Like someone who didn't actually have beef with Kevin Hart couldn't talk to him that way. Cat Williams gets to talk to Kevin Hart that way because he fucking earned it over decades of a feud. But back to your question of like, are there some things that are absolutely sacrosanct? I'm not gonna say that nobody is allowed to try, because first of all, I'm not the one who gets to decide that. I'm not the comedy police. I'm not the thought police. But the stakes are so high that if you do try, you better stick to landing. Like, if you think you're that guy who has the funny thing to say about George Floyd, okay, but like, ask yourself why taking that risk feels so important.
Right.
Is it because you believe that something needs to be said and you're the one to say it? Or are you trying to be a provocateur? Are you trying to rage bait? Because you can do that, but you're not going to get flowers for it because nobody's going to find it funny. And that's going to be your fault. Because I have heard I've heard some comics pull off some incredible things with taboo material, or what you would maybe think of as taboo material. Like when we were talking about the roast battle between the trans woman and the guy with cerebral palsy.
Like, I was thinking, I heard rape jokes are not funny, clearly, right? But somebody made a joke about rape jokes, and that was funny, right? So they found an angle to talk about the violent thing, but in a way that was hands off, kind of, because they didn't actually talk about rape. They talked about the rape jokes.
Right. So the topic itself is not off the table ever, because everyone should have the right to try to say something interesting about it. And that's what comedy does, is it says interesting things about really tough topics. If you say make a George Floyd joke and it's stupid, everyone's going to call you racist because it is racist to make a stupid George Floyd joke.
Right.
You know, that's the cost of attempting to box above your weight class.
It reminds me of the concept that I teach in class called retrosexism. It's used a lot in advertising where, like Carl's Jr. is a big one. They have like girls playing the do 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 the 4th of July song over cheeseburgers and fireworks, and women in scantily clad, you know, not a lot of clothes is what my brain is trying to say.
Scantily clad.
All the words. There you go. My brain could not make that come out.
It is rough.
Yeah. Or like there's in the video that I show them, there's a Twix commercial where the guy and the girl are taking the baby and putting it in the car, and he turns around and there's a couple of girls pillow fighting, and they're like, for Twix when you need a minute, because she's like, are you looking at those girls? And he's like, no honey, I'm looking at potential babysitters. You know, and so they're talking about the way that we laugh at the wife because she's so stupid that she believes this. And the company can take that, and they know that they're doing sexism, right? But because they're trying to do it in a funny way, that they somehow remove themselves from the concept of sexism, like a wink and a nod. You know what I'm doing, and you know what, you know, we both know what's happening here, but it's not really what's happening here. We're satiring it. And that's not what's happening at all. They're actually doing the sexism, you know, in an effort to circumvent that. They dive right into it. And you see that a lot in commercials.
What'd you say you call it?
Retrosexism. I got that from the Feminist Foundation. Anna Scarsese, is that how you say her name? Scarsese. She's the one that with the Gamergate. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I think it's okay. Fuck.
But there's a Mike's Hard Lemonade commercial in it, and two guys are standing there in a little Mike's Hard Lemonade cutout wooden booth, and they're like talking to two girls, and they're like, would you like some Mike's Hard Lemonade? Can you believe there are some men that won't drink this because women drink it? And they were like, no, I can't believe that. And then it comes up, he's like, well, I could take you home, right? And they make a wink and a nod in their effort to be nice guys. They're actually trying to hit on the women.
Sarkeesian is her last name.
There you go.
If you put us together, we kind of had it. Yeah, advertising is, you will find, because its job, for the most part, is to make the broadest appeal possible. The worse a society gets, or a culture, worse. I can do better than that. You can see a society reflect its ideals in advertising faster than in other media.
Right. I always show things like Saturday Night Live and satire, because if you can understand what makes somebody laugh or a group of people laugh, you know something about them. If you have people that are laughing at racist jokes and George Floyd jokes, you know something about them.
Yeah.
That's why I show, like, when I do the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas, I show the Saturday Night Live cold open where they did that. And then I show the Brett Kavanaugh one where they also did the hearing of that. And then I show them the actual videos that they're lampooning. And that's a very interesting class where we talk about what's funny and who's allowed to make fun of things and all of that. That's one of my favorite classes of the semester.
Gen Z has, well, this isn't just Gen Z. I think also younger millennials had this conversation about the role humor can play in normalizing certain things, which is valid for sure, because the thing that makes advertising the fastest place to spot changes in a culture is because its goal is to rush to the broadest appeal, whereas other forms of art can be rewarded by resisting normative forces or normatizing forces. But eventually something like SNL is going to settle into that broad appeal. Going back to 9/11 is a really good example. The episode they aired after that happened, so the Saturday following 9/11, New York, especially like downtown New York City, is very constructive of Saturday Night Live. It's very much a part of that thing. So after that happened, it's kind of a shame. Like, go back and watch that episode. There are moments in it that are regular SNL, but there's also, like, you can feel a little bit of difference, because in my mind, like when I was watching it, and I think maybe the audience, their live audience, was thinking this, like, which way are they going to take this? they wound up pandering. They had Rudy Giuliani on and like tearfully thanked him for being a good leader during a hard time and stuff. There's a way to gesture to that. There's a way to include a tragedy like that that doesn't bite so deeply into that ballooning, performative, patriotic, xenophobic zeitgeist. What the hell day was 9/11?
A Tuesday, I'm pretty sure.
By that Saturday, it was off the rails. It was terrorism, the war on terror. It was really only days later. So I understand how it was tough for them, and I can't imagine making that call in the moment if I'm Lorne Michaels. And they like farted out at the end with some sort of like, yeah, so we did our part. We talked about it. Can we be funny now? Can we go back to being funny? Like Lorne Michaels turns to Rudy Giuliani and asks that question.
I think I've seen that clip.
Are we still allowed to be funny in this post 9/11 world? It is a very important moment in contemporary American history, in public media, and they make a joke, but like after all of that, SNL lasts for hours, right? It's like 2 hours long. And all the crying and the sentimentality and the American flagginess of it. And then to literally have Rudy Giuliani there on Weekend Update. Weekend Update. Just watch that segment of that episode.
Yeah. I will. I'm going to go back and watch that. I wonder where it's probably on YouTube, if anything else. You can find a lot of the old episodes on there.
Is that NBC or CBS?
Yeah, NBC.
So I don't know what
Peacock.
Their streaming app is called. Is it Peacock?
Peacock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's on there then.
That's one of the apps I pay for mostly because SVU is on there. I can't leave Olivia Benson hanging.
Do you ever watch Criminal Minds?
Oh yeah, the new season starts May 28th or something. They're going to start dropping episodes. Did you see they started SNL UK?
No.
Yeah, London. There's a couple of episodes that have been out. I watched the first episode that Tina Fey hosted.
Oh.
I haven't watched any more since then, but yeah.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see if it takes root.
Yeah.
Because that's what a show like that has to do. You know, a show like that has to take root. Like, people have to buy into it. People have to take care in it. They have to care what that group of people have to say, or otherwise it doesn't work.
And also adaptation across contexts, like this version of it, where something is exported from the U.S. to the UK or somewhere in Europe. It doesn't happen that often, and it's not very successful normally. We take a lot of their stuff. We have and a lot of our biggest hits have been exports, like The Office. A lot of our reality shows are just theirs, right? Starting with American Idol, that's an export. Dancing with the Stars is an export.
X Factor.
Yeah, X Factor. There's a baking show now, but there have been instances of us trying to take things over there, and it doesn't work, really.
Yeah. Speaking of baking shows, have you ever seen the Pottery competition show?
The Great Pottery Throwdown?
Yes.
I have seen every single episode.
It is fantastic. Yeah, we've watched a lot of it, but then Shanna got sad because that's what her degree is in ceramics. She has a bachelor's of art. And then she got too sad to watch it because she wanted to go do it.
I really think I'm the one that told you to watch it.
Are you?
I think. If you watched it recently, because I'm remembering this, and this was like a year ago now. I think it was because we're talking about Shanna. But because that's too weird of a coincidence that we would have both seen the least viewed of the Great British. But I don't know. But yeah, I love it. And the Keith, the little judge, the way he cries every time he sees something beautiful, it's just so lovely.
Yeah.
And then because he's like this just big-hearted softy he just clearly loves art. He loves design. He loves execution and creation and stuff. And then when he does his little demonstrations and he pulls off his button-up shirt and he's just wearing the tank top and he's got his guns out and you're like, oh, there's a leather daddy under there.
Have you ever thrown before?
No, I have not. And I really want to.
Me too. Shanna would come home covered in clay and slip and, paint and all kinds of stuff. And she got to learn how to use power tools. And it just looks like so much fun. She had a blast doing it.
Well, I did some sculpting and like ceramics, but we didn't use, like, we just poured into molds and then sculpted and stuff and fired it, like glazed it and fired it. And only in high school, yeah, just this is not one of the. I took a lot of art for my electives in college, but you had to buy your own materials, and so I couldn't really afford much.
Yeah. Well, with tuition came unlimited clay and things like that. That was one thing that you didn't have to do. You got to use the departments at Miami.
That's one of them nice schools.
Yeah. Miami is one of the best schools in the Midwest.
Yeah. There's another of those shows called The Great British Jewelry Making Show. Let me see what it's called.
Well, that sounds fun.
Oh, it's excellent as well. Let's see. Here's the AI overview. You're likely referring to the hit television reality competition All That Glitters, Britain's Next Jewelry Star. It doesn't quite roll off the tongue. Known colloquially as the jewelry equivalent to Bake Off. But, talking about like how they do a lot of things better than we do in terms of, especially reality competition, is they all have hosts that they call presenters, and most of them are comedians. Like the host of Pottery Throwdown not for the first few seasons, but eventually becomes Siobhan, that like Irish lesbian comedian, Siobhan McSweeney. She's a stand-up and she's hilarious. Catherine Ryan is the presenter for the jewelry show. She's a Canadian-British comedian. And I still think about some of the things that she said. Me and Claire were watching the jewelry one, and there was this dude on there, and he was so sweet and earnest and just dumb as a box of rocks. And he would consistently say things, and I was like, what? This is giving me the weirdest sensation of what he just said. And Claire's like, it's like being in a Christopher Guest movie, watching this man. It was like watching Bested Show, and that's so accurate. Wonder what else ones there are. What are all the British? What do we call those?
Competition shows?
Reality shows. Google's like, I got you. Category: British reality television series. Oh, good lord. Never mind. Brisket. God damn it. I know it's the only window open in the house, so I know why you want to get in it, but it's also I'm using it. I had a job interview on Tuesday.
How did that go?
It was fine. It was fun. They were nice. I've never interviewed for a faculty gig before, and so, the presentation portion where they give you a prompt.
I've never been through it either, so no, I didn't know that.
See if you can serve on a search committee.
I did for the director, but that was totally different.
They didn't do a presentation for that?
Not that I remember. She was the only person that applied for it.
Damn, that is scandalous. So yeah, it's customary in higher ed for faculty or staff position. Maybe it's becoming less customary now. Used to, the first time I was on the job market, interviews were multiple days. You fly in the night before, and you have dinner with a certain group of interested parties. Maybe some people who would be colleagues. Folks. It's not super serious, but you're definitely on. And then the next day, you'll be picked up from the hotel and around anytime from 7:45 to 8:30ish, and you'll have breakfast with another group of interested folks on campus, or maybe some of the same, maybe some students. And then you'll go and start a full day of half-hour to hour meetings / interviews with various people. You'll meet with maybe the VP of whatever division, the chair of whatever department, the search committee, and they'll ask you those round robin questions. And then there'll be a point where you'll give a presentation of some sort, and they'll give you a prompt to create the presentation based on. So for a lot of the staff positions I have interviewed for, it'll be do a presentation of your first year goals and how you'll accomplish those. Yeah. Or they'll give you a case scenario, like a case study, and you would have to say the steps you would do to respond to it. For faculty, it's either a teaching demonstration or a demonstration of your research, depending on where you're interviewing. So I've never done that one before. It's always been for me like, what happens if there's a crisis, and how do you handle this crisis, or how do you respond to this thing? And so this was very much like, I could just explain this to you, because it was just it just felt like a really simple presentation compared to the ones I've done. Because they were like, how would you do a demonstration of walking students through editing a thesis statement from this kind of paper into a thesis statement for another kind of paper? So as I was doing it, I felt really self-conscious because I was describing something extremely simple to a group of people who knew how to do it. And maybe that's what it's like for faculty gigs. If anybody out there listening has ever done faculty interviews, let us know if that's normal. But I was sweating so profusely. I just felt really self-conscious describing something obvious because it's not my usual experience. My usual experience, like the past 15 years, has been I'm the only person in the room that knows the thing. And if I don't know it, then the problem doesn't get solved. And it was really difficult to go from that gear to, well, here's something you could Google.
Right.
But, teaching isn't about that. Like, pedagogy is not problems. Well, maybe it's a different kind of problem solving, right? Praxis. Because one of the things they asked me was like the difference between process and product. And I was like, wow, you guys are talking to people that don't know that, huh? Okay. So it was like validating and stressful at the same time. And then also, like, you mean to tell me jobs like this have been out here all along and I have been dying over crises for 15 years for less money? They seemed like a cool bunch. And I liked that it was a community college because there's a job, the same job is posted at the university that just fired me. I shall not be applying for it.
Yeah.
Their culture is just awful.
Why would you go back into the fire?
Not only that, but they call themselves, hang on, it was the Ivy of the Prairie. Yeah.
Well, that's...
Listeners, you can imagine the faces we just made. Maybe you heard the faces we just made.
Of all the things you've told me about that particular school, that it's Ivy League caliber was not one of the reactions that I have had.
They've not updated their impression of themselves since the 90s, which...
Do they mean like poison ivy?
Hemlock? And like, dream big, dress for the job you want, I guess. But from everything I can tell, it was a big deal back in the day, for some very specific reasons. There was a couple of really influential people on campus that made it their whole personality, their whole identity to impact the school in certain ways. And those people have gone, and it's just slowly deflated like a weird balloon.
Yeah.
So, because when I came here, and they told me that, and I was like, "What? Really? Okay." And yet, they posted this job that is PhD required with a starting salary of $52,000. You want somebody with a PhD in philosophy to move to the surface of the moon for $52,000? Why would they do that?
Right. Because they're desperate, and that you can sort of live on that.
Yeah. And so, like, what kind of cognitive dissonance is that? Have they finally realized, okay, maybe we're not all that because nobody's applying to our jobs? Or do they still think that people would come to work here for that amount of money because they're just lucky to be here, feel lucky to be here? That's how they see the students as well. I don't know. This has become a higher ed podcast.
Poop. There, I just brought it back down.
Have you been writing?
I have. I've been, not yesterday because I took the day off, but the day before that and the day before that I added pages. So
that's the way it gets done.
That's the only thing I'm teaching a class online right now, but I got everything done for that class by Tuesday morning and I haven't touched it since. Basically, they have some assignments due and then a discussion board, and I have to respond to so many of the discussion board posts. So I just went in and did all of those at once and then made sure everything was graded, and I don't have to touch it again until Monday. So
for the other university?
Yeah. It's pretty cut and dry. So, yeah. And I only put maybe 10, 12 hours a week into it. And the extra income is very helpful. So, and it forces me to get online and be focused and that kind of thing.
If I wind up working for these folks, and it's not a huge if, they already called and asked for my references, so they'll need to agree to some things for it to be physically possible for me because it's a 90-minute drive, and they may not be able to. Having summers off, I don't know what that's going to be like. What is that life like?
I enjoy it thoroughly.
Right.
5 stars, highly recommend it.
Crazy. Well, maybe it's time to hear from this week's sponsor, who I have forgotten. Oh, let me put my glasses on. This week's episode of Queer Next is brought to you by the Buy Here, Pay Here car lot. Or the Buy Here, Pay Here used car lot, I should say. There are no new ones. That begraveled stretch of asphalt on the edge of town where the American dream goes to get its catalytic converter stolen. With felonious interest rates and on-call knee breakers to enforce them, you'll take what you can get and be grateful or else. If the check engine light ain't on, it's because the dash is broken too. If you're tired of trudging 10 miles to work and having pocket money, go on down to Honest Ed's and get stole from. Bask in the smell of stale Winston Reds and desperation while you hand over a stack of crumpled 20s to a man named Rick wearing a ring large enough to double as a blunt force weapon because it does. You aren't there because your lifelong ambition is to own a 2008 sedan with a mismatched bumper and a permanent scent of wet dog. You're there because credit scores are for people who've never had the thought, if I stopped eating, I wouldn't need to go to the dentist anymore. The Buy Here, Pay Here lot is a special kind of rural purgatory. It's built on the absolute necessity of having wheels in a place where the nearest grocery store is 3 towns over, and the public transit is just a guy named Daryl with a flatbed. You know you need that car to get to the shift that pays for the car, creating a circle as vicious as the one where a living organism gets killed and ate. It's a place where no credit, no problem actually means your problems are actually much larger than yet and just getting warmed up. It's a demonic confluence of hope and low-grade anxiety. You spend every Friday afternoon driving to that gravel lot to hand over half your paycheck in cash, praying the transmission holds together until your second job pays out. You do all this despite knowing that the GPS tracker hidden under the dashboard is worth more than the actual engine. For a lot of us, these lots were our first taste of adulting. We learned one of the limitations of our lot in life is you hardly ever get to own anything, and if you do, it's utter trash. We learned to sacrifice our automotive dignity to the raw mechanical reality of getting from point A to point B without the floorboards rusting out from under your boots. The Buy Here, Pay Here lot, providing the fine people of the holler with the right to pay 4 times the Blue Book value for a vehicle that's held together by Bondo and prayer. And now back to Queer Next, where our internals are also making a sound we've decided just to ignore until something falls off. Have you ever bought anything? This delay has got us like having twinning moments. I have never, because that's one thing. There are certain like fiscal things that my parents were absolutely dead set on me knowing. And so avoiding the Buy Here, Pay Here lot was one of them. Like if it's too good to be true, it is.
So I've only ever bought 2 cars off of a lot, both used. Every other car that I've had has come from not an impound yard, a junkyard, because my dad would rebuild my cars, salvage. My first car was my Geo Metro, and we went out driving, and my dad was like, pick one out. And I picked out a Mustang, and he said no. So then I picked out the Geo Metro, and he's like, okay, that's more our speed. And then I drove that until I got my Hyundai Accent, which was a graduation present, which came in on a flatbed, crashed the front. And then I had the car that I bought, my other Hyundai Accent, that I bought off of a used car lot. But I paid like $12,000 for that, so I had a whole car loan and all that. And then after that one ran out, I had the car that my dad gave me, the Malibu, and I drove that thing for 200,000 miles for like 12 years. And then I've got the Equinox that I'm driving now that I paid cash for.
My first vehicle was given to me. It was the Metro. Dad had bought it off of a local car lot down in I don't know if it was Williamsburg or Corbin, somewhere around in that area, for $1,900. And he drove it until it had 300-something thousand miles on it. It was falling apart in such specific ways. And so he gave it to me fully thinking that it would last, especially with a new driver, that it was going to last maybe 6 months to a year. And so I drove it for years. It eventually healed itself. I think I told the story. It had an oil leak, and the oil would leak onto the flywheel, which is the clutch, the assembly basically for the transmission. It's, when you switch into a gear, it's supposed to, the teeth grab and then it takes off, and the oil was leaking onto that flywheel, which also happened to be warp from the last clutch put on it. The guy who replaced it was somebody down Jellicoe Holler. He didn't rotate the flywheel, and so it was only touching on a certain bit like this, and then it was leaking oil onto that spot. And so if I gave it too much gas in second or third gear, it would just fly out of gear. And so I'd be on the interstate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, it eventually stopped doing that. And I was like, what's going on? And so Dad opened it up and looked at it, and he was like, well, the oil leak has gommed itself shut. It congealed on the seal, and because I didn't change the oil. And so he changed the oil, and he was like, I'll just leave it. We'll see if it stays that way. It never did leak oil again. And the new clutch warped to the old flywheel.
That's one thing I'm meticulous about is oil changes and tire rotations. I get those done. I don't get the tire rotations done as often as I should, but I still maintain them. But oil changes, I do by the car recommendation, not by the oil change place. I do it when it's down to like 20%. Because if they want you in there every 3,000 miles, I'd be getting one every month.
Nobody.
I put a lot of miles on my car.
Nobody who drives a regular contemporary vehicle needs a 3,000 mile oil change because, well, there's two reasons. One, most of the oil is synthetic, but even if you don't do like the premium synthetic oil change, that number is based on before blocks were titanium. They used to be made out of all kinds of, steel or chrome alloy or something like that. And so they would shave off as the pistons fired in the cylinders. It would shave off tiny bits, and that's what would gum the oil up like that. Well, they're titanium now. They don't do that. Like, depending on the vehicle and your driving style and whatnot, you could go 10,000 miles between oil changes.
Yeah.
I'm not recommending that. I stick to, 5,000 to 6,000 mile.
Yep. Me too.
I don't know. I got to learn about the new truck and see. I don't even know what kind of oil it takes. I have done hardly any digging into it, honestly. Yesterday I was coming back from Alexandria, and I hit a bunch of, they're doing a bunch of like resurfacing on the roads now that winter's over. So I wound up on a gravel back road between some fields. There's all the roads are on grids here, but a lot of them are just muddy gravel things. And so I started playing around with the 4-wheel drive, which was fun.
My car has all-wheel drive.
I actually had 2 Metros, but the second one was after Geo had been bought by Chevy. So it was a Chevy Metro. Well, I don't know. I don't remember if they were called Metro, but it's the same car.
Right.
And my dad, also same thing. My dad gave it to me after he had put hundreds of thousands of miles on it. It was also a 4-speed.
Yeah. I also drove my dad's car for a little while, the Jeep that he had, until it got destroyed. And I also drove a car that my cousin gave me when my Jeep got destroyed. That all happened when I was down in Lucasville. So.
What kind of Jeep did you have?
A Liberty? No, a Compass. A Compass.
Oh, okay. I had a Patriot, which is just a Dodge Charger in Jeep's clothing.
There are so many Jeeps here because there's a Jeep factory. Yesterday we went to Five Guys and we were waiting to pull out of traffic, and Shannon was like, Jeep, 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 Jeep. They were everywhere.
Here, everybody drives gigantic trucks.
Yeah.
On Mother's Day, it was like a fucking truck convention on my street. And everybody in a family will have the same kind. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Did you bring a noun of Appalachian interest?
I did. I brought a very historic noun this week, one I'm not going to do justice. I'm sure you're going to be able to add plenty to it, but one that we need to be mentioning anyway. This week's noun of Appalachian interest is Matewan, West Virginia, which is one of those places where you can walk down the street and feel like the past is not the past at all. It's still standing there with its arms crossed, waiting for you to ask what happened. So Matewan is a small town in Mingo County, tucked along the Tug Fork River, right near the Kentucky line. If you've never been there, picture railroad tracks, old brick buildings, mountains close enough to make the sky feel smaller, and a town that looks quiet until you learn what went down there. In 1920, coal miners in southern West Virginia were trying to unionize. The coal companies did not care for that one bit, because workers asking for rights had never been a favorite hobby of rich men in suits. So the companies bought in the Baldwin Felts agents, who were basically private detectives, hired to keep miners in line and evict families from company-owned houses. And that's where Sid Hatfield comes in. Not that Sid Hatfield, a different Hatfield. Although in this part of the world, you're never more than 3 turns away from a Hatfield, a McCoy, or somebody's cousin who knows both. Sid was the police chief in Matewan, and instead of siding with the coal company, he stood with the miners and their families. On May 19, 1920, the tension in the town boiled over into what became known as the Battle of Matewan. There was a shootout right there in town, and people died. The mayor, the miners, and the Baldwin Felts agents were all caught in it. It was not some distant, tidy textbook event. It was people's homes, people's jobs, people's children, and people trying to decide how much they were willing to risk for dignity. And that's what makes Matewan so interesting. It reminds you that Appalachian history is not just quilts and biscuits and somebody's mamaw yelling from the porch. I mean, we have those too, and thank God for them. But Appalachia is also union organizing. It's resistance. It's people with very little money standing up to people with a whole lot of power. Today, Matewan has the West Virginia Mine Wars Museum, and if you go, you can learn about the miners, the families, the company towns, and the fight for basic labor rights. It's the kind of history that makes you look at a paycheck, a work schedule, or a boss and says, we're all family in here, and think, are we though? And I think that's why Matewan matters for Queer Next too, because queer Appalachian history and labor history have something in common. Both are about people being told to stay quiet, stay grateful, and stay in their place. And both are about people eventually saying, nope, I don't believe I will. So if you ever find yourself in Matewan, don't treat it like a place you just passed through. Look around, read the signs, visit the museum. Stand there for a minute and remember that this little town helped tell a much bigger story about workers, power, and what people will do when they have finally had enough. Matewan may be small, but it is not minor. And that has been your Noun of Appalachian Interest for this week. History with mountains around it, coal dust on its boots, and absolutely no patience for nonsense.
Sid Hatfield actually was one of those Hatfields.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. He was cousin for Devil Anse.
My best friend is a Hatfield. It's not her last
Ooh.
name, but she's related to that part of the family. Yeah.
Yeah, Sid Hatfield was one of the Hatfields that kind of broke ranks, and it's difficult to say in such a place and time, but you would consider him to be more on the right side of history than someone like Devil Anse, who was very much pro-Confederate.
Right.
Do you follow Appalshop on any social media?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Doesn't sound familiar. No.
I didn't really know about him either until we started doing this show, and I was just looking for, people, other kind of progressive left type things in Appalachia. But they do a lot of history on the coal wars, on the labor history of Appalachia. They have a podcast called Appalachia. I don't know how they say it. I always say it. In my head, I have to pronounce it or it won't make sense. But
I think I do know that.
Yeah,
I think I do know
it's run by Appalshop. Actually, WMMT, where our nouns and sponsors air on Saturdays, they're associated with Appalshop.
Oh.
But there's also, have you seen the movie Matewan?
No.
I hadn't heard about it until I took Cynthia Barron's course on film theory, which I don't think you were in.
No. I didn't take any film classes.
Okay. I'd never heard of it, and I was like, oh, okay. And it's a John Sayles film. It is about that. It's kind of it's about the time leading up to the Cold War, specifically in Matewan, and how that movement took shape. There's some interesting subplots in it, for instance, around the racial makeup and racial dynamics of that. There's a character played by James Earl Jones who wants to join the miners and their meetings, and so there's this whole discussion of the people who want to keep him out because he's black. Very similar to the discussions in queer feminist history of the Lavender Menace and stuff. Do you contribute or detract from our mission here? And then There's the other folks who are like, what are you talking about? He's a minor. I would say that we should review it, but it might not be very fun. I don't know.
We need to pick our next movie that we're going to review.
I was thinking about that this morning. It would be fun if we could find one that we had both not seen, but that's also really hard because how do you find a movie that, you haven't seen?
Right.
We need listener help. Maybe I'll post something on our social media and ask people. Comment on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you listen if you can think of a movie that would be funny, would be fun to hear our take on, and we'll try to find something that neither of us has seen. Or we could do that thing like we did the first time where we pick one that, like, I pick one that you haven't seen, you pick one I haven't seen.
That can be fun again. I still can't believe you hadn't seen Muriel's Wedding.
I couldn't believe it either, because when I saw it, I was like, oh, where has this been? One of the things I talked about with them at the interview was like they might want to add some film courses, but they've never had anybody like credentialed to teach them. So I started thinking about the kind of stuff I usually teach in whatever film class I'm teaching. Have you seen Paris is Burning?
No, I haven't. That's on my to-do list, but no, I've not seen it.
It's worth seeing because it will make a lot of other media that references it or draws from it make sense. But I've seen it a million times. I've rewatched it every year, actually, because I always teach it. Whether I'm teaching a class or not, I show it and do a critical discussion of it. I also like to take movies and like assign them in pairs to students that like either are similar or each are doing something similar, or they're opposites of each other. Like I've done White Zombie and I Walked with a Zombie for classic horror films. And what's really interesting about that is that like White Zombie is 1931/32, and it's super imperialist, racist, white anxiety, great replacement theory, all that shit, right? And then I Walked with a Zombie is set in, I think it's Cuba. It's in the Caribbean somewhere. I just forget which country, on a plantation. And it's a more like nuanced look at how the myth of the zombie actually works in that. It's Haiti, probably makes more sense in that culture, but it's also an adaptation of Wide Sargasso Sea.
I don't know that one either.
Wide Sargasso Sea is, we're getting into intertextuality here, but like it's kind of a prequel to Jane Eyre.
Okay.
It's, the woman in the attic, his first wife, and Grace Poole and all that. It's how did they come to be how they are, right? What happened to his wife? Why is she locked in the attic? It places that in the Caribbean, and then they come to wherever the fuck Jane Eyre takes place. It's been forever since I read that. And so I Walked with a Zombie is this like speculative fiction, as they called it at the time, of what happened to her, like why she went crazy and why he Rochester locked her in the attic. And it's a zombie movie. I don't know. Really fascinating movie, actually. But another one I would like pair that I would teach together is Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
I've seen that one once a long time ago, but I've seen Julie Newmar 2 times. Yeah.
I thought about that movie because I said something a few episodes back about like we don't often see a redneck trope. You expect that someone's going to be, you're getting into Deliverance and they're actually a nuanced character that is, and Tu Wong Fu is an example of that happening. Like the town of yokels is more how they're described than, because it's more of an Oklahoma situation, right? They're somewhere in the South or Midwest.
Yeah.
But still, that's an example of that happening. Stockard Channing's character in particular.
She's one of my favorite actresses.
Really?
Yeah. I liked most of things that she's been in.
Talking about movies that are coming out. First of all, it's, summer, all the summer horror movies are coming out, which I'm not going to, I'll tell you when I see them, but I'm not going to expect you to see them. There are some movies coming out that are exciting, one of which is the sequel to Practical Magic.
I just read Practical Magic, the book. And I saw the trailer for it, and it's basically the second half of the book from what I can understand. So.
Oh, cool. I didn't read the book.
I listened to it on audiobook, but same thing. Audiobooks are reading.
Right.
Yeah. There's a big debate about that. People say that audiobooks aren't reading because you're not actually looking at the words.
I can't.
In the past 6 months, I've listened to like 10 books. So, I can tell you what they're about. I can tell you main themes. I can tell you characters. I can tell you all those things. That's the same as reading.
These sort of purity tests are so fucking tired.
Yeah, agreed.
The only thing that matters is whether you understood it. So if I'm not going to have Derrida or Khrushcheva read to me, because I would be pausing at every other sentence and trying to go like, okay, what the fuck were they talking about? But a novel, yeah, let me listen to it. It's more likely to get.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit and read a novel because I'm not very good at reading. Right, like I'm dyslexic. I read out of order. I still have to pause and like let my brain. It's like I'll look at it and all the letters are kind of blown apart, and I have to stop and like look into the back of my brain where they assemble themselves into a paragraph. It takes me a long time to read shit. I like reading a lot, but like I don't have a ton of time these days.
That's why I do it in the car, you know? I have lots of free time in the car, nothing else I'm doing. And like I said, I've listened to probably 10 books in the last 6 months, which is 10 more books than I was able to get to last year, you know? So it has really increased my consumption of media, which I really appreciate. That isn't TV or that kind of thing. So Hoopla and Spotify has almost every book you can imagine between the two of them.
Yeah.
And you get like 12 free hours a month of Spotify audiobooks. Might be more than that, but you get so many hours a month of audiobooks included.
Oh, shit. So it's not coming out for a long time, but there's a movie I want us to review. And it is a scary movie, but it is a lesbian scary movie. It's going to be one of a kind. There's not been a movie like this. It's doing things to a genre, so an established genre of like the sleepaway camp type of thing, and it's lesbian. It's called Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. It stars, what's her name?
Well, it rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah, doesn't it? Hannah and Binder, and I don't know how to pronounce her name. I'm not super familiar with her because I don't watch Hacks. And Gillian Anderson, who I would take a bullet for. And so it's like a satire, queer satire of that 80s and 90s genre of sleepaway camp slasher film. And it's made by Jane Schoenbrun, who is Schoenbrun. I'm probably saying that wrong. But they made We're All Going to the World's Fair and I Saw the TV Glow. Are you familiar with either of those?
No.
So
I do not have my finger on the pulse of horror, so.
Well, we should watch I Saw the TV Glow, because multiple people have made the assumption that I will have seen it, and I have it, but I just can't. I haven't been able to push play on it because my worry is that it's gonna do a thing where it explains something I already know to me, and I'm not as worried about that anymore. I was worried about this when it came out because I'm like, oh, everybody's saying it's a queer allegory or it's a trans allegory, and it's heavily about nostalgic media, and I'm really sensitive to that. I care about that almost more than I care about fucking queerness, you know? Like, if you're gonna if making a movie about nostalgic media, I want it to be good. And so I think I wasn't in a good headspace when it came out, because it's a few years old now. I think it's from 2023. But now that I went back and watched their first movie, We're All Going to the World's Fair, and it's weird and experimental and unlike anything I've ever seen. And so I'm like, okay, now I might watch I Saw the TV Glow. I don't know. I'll post it on social media and ask the listeners, and y'all tell us through whatever means you can if that would be interesting to you to hear us talk about that, because it would be a blind react. Neither of us has seen it. And I don't think it's like disgusting scary, you know. I think it's more of an atmospheric horror movie. We'll see. But the Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma it doesn't come out until August 7th. It's not released in theaters, so it'll be a while. Yeah.
We have a theater very close to our house, but I'm still scared of going to the movies, man. Since people started getting shot up in them,
yeah,
it scares me. I haven't been to the movie in literally probably 10 years.
Wow. I didn't know you had that fear. It is claustrophobic. I mean, I do a lot of thinking about where to sit. Right now, my movie buddy is my friend Elise up in Morris, and we always, talk about we're like, okay, where do we want to sit? Does it matter to you, right? Like, what are you worried about versus what am I worried about? Because, maybe for her, it's like getting out to the bathroom because she has some sort of stomach disease. And for me, I'm like, okay, where's the exit? But yeah, I mean, it's hard if something like that takes root, and it's understandable that it would, it isn't going to go away unless you just start going to the theater. So then it becomes a question of how important is it to you? I would give a lot to be able to go to the theater whenever I wanted to, because movies are very important to me.
We've got an AMC multi-screen We've got a mall in the next exit up. It's huge, but nobody goes to it. So,
Yeah, the malls are dying.
yeah. They do have a P.F. Chang's and a Red Robin, and a Barnes & Noble's is still actual, honest to God, Barnes & Noble is still there. There was a Bath & Body Works. It only lasted like 2 months there, like because nobody goes there. Shannon got to go once.
There's a mall in Fargo, actually, that is doing okay. Every time I go to it, there's actually people at it.
Yeah. They've also got a Dillard's there and a JCPenney.
Is there a Talbot's?
I don't know. I haven't seen that one.
There's this really incredible movie that Claire and I watched about 10 years ago now. Super indie, a lesbian movie called The Foxy Merkins. Which is one of my favorite titles of movies ever.
We're talking about Merkins, like the vagina wigs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
There's actually, okay, we're gonna review the Foxy Merkins because I haven't seen it in forever, and I just Googled it, and all these like images are really making me want to watch it again because I've only seen it the one time, and there are things I still quote from it, but the sort of plot or the premise is that there's these two women who are friends, and they're both sex workers, and they each have like their type, their typical kind of customer, and the one woman is like very like maybe classic big-bodied butch lesbian, with her, she's got her short black haircut, and she picks up, I'm not even gonna say middle-aged women, these are like women of a certain age is what I would call this, outside of Talbot's. she just stands outside Talbot's and solicits these elderly women for sex. And the title comes from, like, at one point they meet a Merkin salesman in a graveyard, and I don't remember why. I don't remember what the movie's actually about, but I just remember it being ridiculous and unique. Where's this playing? Oh, it's on, well, you can rent it from YouTube. Watch movie. Where can I watch this?
And what's it called?
The Foxy Merkins.
The Foxy Merkins.
Wait, is this on Netflix? Nope. I wish Netflix would fucking scrub the old broken links of movies from... This is amateur behavior. Google Play. I don't know. Maybe it fell off the back of a truck somewhere. I'll find it. But yeah. Maybe where's the trailer? Where's the trailer?
Foxy Merkins? Foxy Merkins? Love Fuzz? Foxy Merkins?
Oh, he's a Merkin salesman.
So Foxy Merkins?
What's a Merkin? It's a toupee for your vagina.
What kind of cut you like?
I like a little smaller.
Small? Petite vagina?
Yeah.
One of those?
You should get one.
Petite Ambers?
I have a plus size vagina.
Yeah.
Well, that was bizarro. Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll see if I can. I'll get it for us somewhere, listeners. Okay. See if you can find it somewhere. Maybe it'll appear in our Discord. So why don't you send us an email? I know that someone already did, and we'll just add you. Literally, just email us at mailbag@queernext.com, and I'll add you to our Discord if I trust you. So yeah, I don't know when we'll do that. We'll decide off air when we're going to do that, and then yeah. Well, what are you doing the rest of the day?
Writing.
Nice.
And then Shannon will be home in a couple of hours, and we'll probably go get something to eat or something like that. But yeah, writing is on my agenda for today. So
Cool.
What about you?
I think I want to take my bike out because it's actually above 70 degrees. Well, it's not yet, but it's going to be. And I'm a real just daisy about being on the bike if it's too cold. I just can't stand cold air rushing over my face and my ears. My sinuses hurt. The incision on my neck hurts if it gets too cold. And so I'm a baby. But I love being on my bike when it's hot outside. So I might do that. I also need to clean, which I've been needing to do for months.
Yeah, we could use a clean in here too.
So
Have you heard the I Think That I Just Got More Gay song by 76th Street?
No?
I've got that line stuck in my head. I think that I just got more gay. It's really funny. You should check it out.
Okay.
Go away. I want her tattooed, arms around my waist. They're a lesbian duo. They sing lesbian music.
Okay.
So I recommend them. 76th Street. I Think That I Just Got More Gay.
I found a YouTube channel that is a bunch of little half-hour histories of bands, and he has a real appreciation for the 90s and 2000s girl alternative lesbian rock type stuff. Like I watched a thing about the Breeders. I watched one about Veruca Salt. I didn't know that Veruca Salt broke up because of rumors and constant bullying, calling them an industry plant because they were just so talented.
Yeah. Wow.
That's criminal. 8 Arms to Hold You that might be my favorite album of all time. It was very formative to me. Well, music, I think music plays a big part in a lot of people's coming of age. And so finding queer music as a little baby queer was important to someone who didn't have access to community.
Yeah.
It's not like I could watch a queer film anytime I wanted to, but music, I could always have the queer music I liked. Well, I can't think of anything else to say.
Keep your fingers crossed for Rue that everything's okay and it's just asthma.
Yeah, well, I mean, an asthma still, that's something to manage, but...
Right, but there are worse things it could be, so...
That's true. Yeah, hang in there, baby Rue. Well, thanks for hanging out another week. We will let y'all know about the Foxy Merkins and whatever we're going to do. Maybe that'll be our year episode. I don't know. And be good. Have a good week. Say hi to your mom and them.
Bye.